Right. We are live, Grant. Sorry, we had a malfunction, and right now we're on a steel bridge, so I'm not sure what our what our reception is going to be. You were finishing up your story of your personal best when our tire blew on the kayak trailer. We're going 80 miles an hour down the highway, and our kayaks are bouncing down the road. Everybody's honking at us. Check this out. Look at the cut on that tire.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. And so it was completely flat, and this thing was going wild. So we are okay. Got it fixed. I actually used the kayak tools in my kayak to actually help get a bolt off that wasn't deep enough for the socket. So we're back in business.
See, it's a good thing that, you make videos on how to prepare and do things like this so that you're actually prepared for when the things like this happen, Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Shout out Big Sam's Custom Kayak Trailers. That thing handled it like a champ. 78 miles an hour, blew a tire like that, and it kept my truck straight as an arrow.
Now, so this is Jake. Jake was on Bearded Dad Fishing team this past weekend. So we got 3 teams represented from the Knucklehead. But
sweet.
Grant, finish your donkey story. I cut you off.
Yeah, it was actually an amazing day. So to kind of pick up, and for those who weren't there or listening to the story earlier, it was out pre-fishing earlier this week, and it's been a big running joke with me trying to catch a frogfish because I'm just the worst frog fisherman ever in existence. Because I always set the hook too late. I always set it too soon. It's never worked. So earlier this spring, I actually caught a fish, and it wasn't a giant or anything, on a flappy frog. But the fishing family always, they always laugh because it's like, you're going to catch a frogfish one of these days, and eventually you're going to catch your PB on a frogfish. So down at Gunnersville pre-fishing, found some pads, had been skipping docks all day. And I was really down there to beat up all of Wendell's fish in case he wanted to go back to spring this year. In case he wanted to go back to spring this year, I was going to go wear out all of his fish on Tuesday and catch me a giant. So,
I went there after you. Freaking sucks.
But, yeah, they sprayed it Monday is what Gene told me. Because he had been down there checking it out too. So, I was like, you know what? I got this silly frog. I built a frog combo. I need to throw it. And Chad had been catching them with, on the Teckle frog on the Monday the day before. And I threw it a bunch and no blow ups, nothing. But I was like, you know what? Here's some pads. And so I started casting and just, started working it out it was on the outside edge, just over the thinner part of the pads. And then I hear this slurp, and then I didn't panic. I didn't wait too long. I didn't I just set the hook at just the right time. And I knew it was a big fish, but it wasn't until I got it in the net and was like, oh, and it's one of those, I can't lift this with my net. I have to balance the net on my leg and use leverage to get it up. And I was like, when I got it down in between my Crocs, I started yelling at Liz, "You need to get over here. I need a camera." Voice all cracking, screaming. And so I backed out of the pads and pulled into some docks just so I wouldn't drift away. And 6.84 pounds, which is funny because it's just shy of my Indiana PB from back in my boat days 20 years ago. But put it on the catch board, and it came in at 22 and a half. And so that beat my old 21 and a quarter was blown away. So that was incredible.
Did you try to stretch him out a little bit? How close was he to the 22 and 3/4?
I was really trying because it's funny because the day before Chad was like, "You're probably going to catch a 22 down here." I told Chad, I said, I really want to catch a 22 because of the whole catch 22 that we started with KBF and fish ops. So if I could catch a 22 incher down here, that would really mean the world to me. And he says, you probably, he says they're pretty good right now. I bet you get like a 20 and a 22.75. So the fact that I got a 22.50 and we split the difference was really incredible. But yeah, that was just and Liz took a beautiful picture of that giant. I think it'll be a 7-pounder. In 2 weeks, that thing will be 7 pounds. If he'd ate like 4 or 5 more shad, I'd have been there. But I'm blessed and I was really happy with it.
It's interesting enough, Gramps. You were pre-fishing for a day, right? And then you have the Knucklehead 2-day tournament, 80 plus anglers, and no one caught a fish over 21 and a half.
Yeah.
That was the biggest fish, wasn't it? 21 and a half?
Yep.
And so
I had the biggest fish of practice.
Yeah, you're the biggest fish of the week that I know of.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else caught a bigger one than you. So, man, congratulations.
That's what I heard. It was incredible. I mean, it's like, it was cool because you get a fellowship with everybody during Knucklehead. But as you know from last year, when you took home the win, you also took home a PB, from just a couple hundred yards north of where I was. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, get on my spot.
Hey, I told Liz, I'm going to go. So here's what's funny. I beat up Chad's fish on Monday because I don't think he still doesn't realize how many I actually caught when he and I were out on the water. Yeah. Before he came back and caught up to me, because I probably caught 5 or 6 before he got back. And I probably caught like 5 or 6 with him there. And he's like, hey, you're supposed to be throwing that dang frog. And I was like, oh, yeah, but they're biting the jackhammer. And I mean, I wore it out. And he said when he went there, he didn't catch any right there. so that part of the strategy worked. And then I was doing the same thing. I was like, I'm going to go hit spring just because, if anybody was watching last year, I said, there's probably going to be several people down there. I said, I'm going to go beat those fish up on Tuesday. And it actually worked out, too. So
So when you were in spring, I wanted to know this. I know you caught your donkey. Were you picking them up in spring outside of the biggin?
Not really. I mean, there was so I'll back. So for day one, the area, we were fishing somewhere else, and I completely stayed away from places I'd fished there in the past because it's always like my fallback spot. But Liz actually went and pre-fished my spot on Monday while I was fishing with Chad and didn't catch a single fish. So I was like, ooh, that's not good. They're not there yet, and in another couple weeks they'll be in those pockets before the creeks. But we were like, there's probably some resident fish in spring that we wanted to go check. But I actually went to spring on day 2 because the spots we were on, it just wasn't reloading. And so, I picked up and moved and I went back to spring after sucking and not catching a big fish on Monday. I caught lots of fish on day 1 on Saturday. I couldn't find a quality fish, even though my teammates were. So sadly, I sunk the team on day 1, only putting up a 14 incher. I caught the limit. I just couldn't find a bigger fish. So day 2, I was like, I'm going back to spring. I don't care what happens. Because I said I didn't catch many fish, but at least I caught that one. And then I actually led our team on day 2 with an 18 incher under a boat dock right next to those same pads. So it was good.
That's where you're at.
And then, And then, so, I was like, you know what? I go someplace where I know I just caught one. So let's go see. At that point, we're only looking for 1. We're not looking for 5. So,
I was in spring. Jake and I went to spring and we pre-fished on Thursday. So all the chemicals are already. And only place I could really find big ones was there's like 2 or 3 places there where there's timber. It's not full of grass.
Yep.
And pitching a jig in there, that was the only you got a catfish out of there.
Massive.
Oh, jeez.
It was 28-inch catfish
on a chatterbait.
Yeah.
And I lost probably a good 20 in the timber, but there wasn't. I mean, I'm used to fishing timber up in Ohio. There wasn't no such thing down on Gunnersville. All the timber was all matted up, and so I really had to change up my strategy. Our whole team did. I mean, a lot of my teams from up north, half the teams from up north, and we're like, wow, they are not hitting anything that is working up north, just simply because it's eelgrass and hydrilla everywhere you go. It's freaking wild. But I almost went back to spring. If I was going to be sucking it up on day 2, and I knew where we could at least get some bites, but they were producing in Seabold, where we were at both days, enough to keep us around. But man, we had to pick through so many dinks, Gramps, so many dinks just to find an 18 and a half every few hours. My gosh.
Now, I will say this, with about an hour to go, I lost an absolute giant on one of those, that row of docks that you like to fish. Farther back, the oldest dock back there, I skipped a Senko up under into the darkest corner, and he bent my rod in half, and my reel was set pretty tight, and he was pulling drag, and I never did get to see him, but when he jumped, it sounded like somebody dropped a cannonball in the water.
Oh, wow.
And then he started running, and I was trying to horse him out. And as you well know, one of the best benefits of a pedal kayak is the ability to instantly reverse with your feet. Me not having that anymore, I hit my motor to try to back it out a little bit, but he was jumping in there so much, and then he ends up taking my line and crossing. I don't know what it is with some of these dock owners, what they hang underneath, or if they're just putting stuff down there because they don't want people fishing their docks. But this fish crossed the line with one of these things hanging down onto somebody's dock, and it was probably just enough pressure to that fish, because I never got a chance to set the hook. And so the tension on that, and eventually when he was able to open his mouth, and then it was all just my rod just went straight and back out, and I was like, oh. But I'm sitting here giggling like crazy, because I was like, that was a good fish. So that's going to be one of those, those clips in the video. It's going to be like total fail, but man, you just know it was an opportunity with the way that rod was just folded over. And who knows? But we know there was another big one back there, so who knows?
What's Chad say? You did everything else. You did everything right but the fight.
That's it. Yeah.
That's what gets you. Well, the crazy thing about dock fishing and skipping Senkos, I imagine you're probably on 8-pound test, right, Fluoro?
I was using 10, but I think I retied leaders. Like, I bet I retied 7 leaders yesterday.
Oh, last year. Yeah, because the crazy thing about those docks, for those of you who are up north who follow us, when I say docks, for us it's like, okay, there's a 10-foot dock and it's a row of wood and that's it. Here there's gang planks all the way out to almost like houses on stilts, and there are 60, 70 pillars sometimes holding this thing up. Boathouses. And so they hold 2 or 3 boats. And if you get a bite under there, if you don't horse them out, they'll go left and they'll go right. And like you said, I believe that a lot of people put like fencing down there and anything to hook up lures. And
there's cross beams.
Beams. And people don't want you, some don't care, obviously, but others are obvious. I don't want you fishing my dock, which personally just makes you want to find a hole somewhere in your dock and fish that, which is usually the door.
Yep, exactly.
Skip it in between the planks.
Yep, skip it, and if you're really good, you can put it in a hole like that. But the problem is, if you get bit, you got to get it out of there. Yeah. An 8-pound test is not how you do it typically. You just got to get.
It's still fun. It's still fun to try.
You got to finesse that sucker out of there.
It's still fun.
Yeah, because normally I'll use like 12-pound braid with an 8-pound leader, but since we were at Gunnersville, it went up to 15-pound braid and 10-pound leader, just because I wanted to be able to fight that fight the best I could. But that's part of it too.
Oh man! So walk through how, if you can, team strategy. How'd that go for Graham?
So Liz and I got there Monday, knowing that we were Oh, who's got low signal? Me or you guys?
Probably us.
Yeah, we're still here. I can hear.
Yeah, we should have. We got good signal on my end. You guys still there?
Hear me?
Yeah. Yep. We're going through Nashville right now.
I don't know how we don't have. All right. So keep going. Walk us through your. You're talking about Liz, you and Liz.
Okay, so Liz and I got there Monday, and I knew I had to fish with Chad on Monday and run around. We were checking the river at different spots just to make sure safety for the event and everything, and then fishing some different places. And yep, here's the Nashville traffic. And so she went and hit a couple spots, and on Monday she went and checked Lindsay and Spring, and then was bouncing around some places up by the islands near Seabold. And then, you know, a lot of our guys were coming in like Friday because they had to work or whatever. So we were just trying to spot check from our past history and what we knew. And, you know, the goal was everybody, you know, fish their strengths if they've been there before. So one of our teammates, Josh, who is one of the state champions out of Mississippi, had never been to Guntersville before. But, you know, he's one of those guys, you put him on the water, it doesn't matter where, he's going to find fish, and he did. So we kind of had a game plan going in. Of course, you know how it is. Pre-fishing tells you so much, but fish seem to know on when Saturday and Sunday is, and the big ones get tight-lipped, and the smaller ones are, you know, eaten. So it was just one of those things where, I mean, and this is what killed me. I was in a pocket that was perfect. You know, had the best looking grass you've ever seen, had the wind blowing into it. You know, that first foggy morning. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. I mean, anybody sitting there would have been like, I'm going to catch a million big fish because the conditions are perfect. I mean, I was like chomping at the bit for lines in. And then for me, it was absolute garbage. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You know, Josh had caught 319s before the first hour.
Woo.
And I'm like, dude, get out of there, you know?
Yeah, call me in.
But, you know, it was kind of funny, but it was just one of those things. So we had two people at Seabold because Liz had free fished there and was really, you know, she found what she was looking for. And I had actually gone, I was going to end up going with Michael Ridnour and Ridnour, I got to get his name right. But, you know, that was my, hold on, we got a little Nashville merging and so forth going on. So I'm getting there. I want to make.
We're in Cincinnati traffic, so we're like,
yeah, I got
we
you.
understand.
Yeah, we're moving, but okay, now we're good. We just had a little merge there. But you know, we had a couple of people in Seabold and a couple of people across from Seabold on the other side of the river. But it was just one of those things where, you know, best laid plans, because, you know, Liz had pre-fished Seabold and that's where she planned on being like most of the week. But of course, you had, you know, everybody else who knew about the magic of Seabold and the Tennessee Bass Nation guys who were all there. So, yeah, I mean, I knew it got pretty crowded over there. But like I said, we were just across the way, but it was just one of those things where we knew we were in the right places in the river. It was just a matter of who's going to get the big ones to eat. And, you know, just, you know, you fish your strengths and, you know, we were chatterbaits over grass and, you know, Michael was even throwing a jerkbait quite a bit. Like I know you guys know, he actually caught in pre-fishing, he actually caught 2 on 1 jerkbait. And,
Nice.
yeah, it was kind of funny, but you know, that is, you have great plans, but you know, the fish are going to be there or they're not. We were all in good areas where they would reload, but you know, it seems like they were reloading with the littler ones than the ones that we were catching earlier in the week.
Yeah, I hear you. I actually ran into Liz last year. In spring, right?
Yep.
She caught big ones out of there. That place is on fire. But of course, last year is in November. Here we are now, and so they are just all in different places. The amount of shad was absolutely unbelievable. Of how many bait balls were everywhere. Seabold was when we pulled up for pre-fishing, you know, Jordan Lee was parked there, right? And there were boats. That place was packed. Rolled into a spot. And, oh, hey, Liz. It's like we didn't like talk to each other. We just found ourselves. I mean, this lake is absolutely monstrous. You drive from one end to the other, it's going to take you an hour and a half. So the fact that we are literally in the same spot year after year without coordinating was wild to me. And then the next morning,
hey, let me take 1 second. I think this is where I'm supposed to exit, but I got to pull my map real fast.
Oh, it's all good.
This guy, dude, every time he cuts in front of him 3 times already.
Let me see. Sly Fox Fishing says people think the fish under their docks belong to them. I hear you. Charlie Anders Fishing. Gramps, congrats on the PB. Bassing with Big Malone. What's up, Bassers? I love it. Bart Foster. Hey, great time talking with you this past week. Congrats on the PB, Gramps, from Bart. Bart said, I finally got my frogfish on Saturday with 3 minutes left before lines out.
Oh, man.
That was nice. It was a 15. There we go. Ruben said, congratulations on your PB. James Griffith says, tires are steep. No trailer tire goes 80 miles an hour. It wasn't actually the tires issue. Anyways, we had it rigged up wrong. We put pressure on.
I will make a correction to that. If you have a Fish Texas kayak trailer, 15-inch road wheels. I do not have that problem. And I'm not saying I roll 80 to 90, but things could happen.
These are 15-inch wheels too.
Yeah, these are 15. It wasn't, the issue wasn't the tire blew because this is a brand new trailer. The reason was we put a strap down and put it on part of the hub that shouldn't have pressure on it, and we hit a bump and it brought the wheel flap, the metal wheel flap, into the tire and cut it.
Yeah, I got you.
The fender's gone. It was welded on and it blew off somewhere and it cut the tire in the process. Anyways, hot freaking mess. We're good now. We're back.
Yeah.
All right.
Pretty quick and easy. 20-minute delay.
Yeah, that was good. You guys were right back on it.
Now we're in traffic.
Yeah. People cutting in front of you and slamming the brakes.
Yeah.
We're doing live during rush hour in Nashville and live during rush hour in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
We might need
and I wish I could show you guys the Jeep and the truck that just got put on a car trailer. And then there's actually in front of that, there's a car hauler with a giant camper on the so these guys are all jacked up.
Woo.
And that's just driving through Nashville, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We probably stayed chatting with Chad a little too long, but we get a little.
You don't get to see him very often, so that's good.
Exactly.
So your team bounced around. Let me share a little about our experience. So half of my team, I don't know, I'd say a good 3 of them were down there on like Monday, it seemed like. So Jack McRoberts, who's the one that did the clutch fish last year, he lives like an hour away. So he probably visited 18 different spots over the last few weeks trying to get the pattern on these guys. Taylor came up early. And so we probably pre-fished, I don't know, I feel like 20 different spots over the past week. And Seth went out one day with his scope, and that guy has that dialed in. My goodness, does he have that dialed in. He pulled in, he said 70 bass the day before the tournament out of Seabold. He was like, I missed a giant here, and he caught 70. Holy crap. So we're like, all right, well, we got to go where we at least know the fish are. There's got to be some ones in there. This was 2 days before the tournament. I went out the next day. I was like, because he's like, what are you catching on? It's like jerkbait. I was like, I don't even think I brought a jerkbait. I fished the jerkbait more in the last 48 hours than I have my entire freaking life. I got blisters from fishing that so hard over the last 2 days. I had to go buy new line, 12-pound fluorocarbon. I had to go to Walmart to actually get some jerk baits. And our whole team was jerk bait fishing. And picking them up, it was the only thing that would either a frog in the morning, or then when the frog bite died, I moved over into 7 to 10 feet of water. Typically, there was a water column of around 4 to 5 feet, and was just doing the popping through there, speeding it up. And that's the only thing that can get them to hit on. So it was wild. Gramps, you there, brother? Yeah, you got enough bars. I don't know. This happens when you do it live from your car. So maybe he'll come back in. Tell me about your team.
Yeah, it was good. Just we had a Mactoon, shout out. He put up crazy amount of fish the first day of the tournament and in practice.
What's big fish?
He caught 219s.
Juicy. On the frog?
219 plus something. It's like 19.75 maybe or something.
All right.
Like that.
Okay. Pushing 20s.
On a frog, I think I get on a jig maybe. I can't remember.
I could not get a jig bite.
Yeah, I couldn't.
Except on timber. That was it. There was like 2 spots the entire week that I saw.
So he was a hammer. He's our anchor, you know, and fishing just happens. It's funny sometimes, and he couldn't catch a fish on Sunday, and it knocked us out of the entire thing. But I mean, no fault to his own. He was on him. He was putting on a clinic for our team, and he came in 3rd in the open overall.
Oh, nice.
So he did go home with some money, so that's good for him. But yeah, great guy. I feel so bad for him, but yeah, he's a great guy. I'll give you the shirt right off his back.
Nice. Yeah. Gramps, you're back.
Awesome.
Yeah, sorry, I had to check my map again. We had it's still nuts here in Nashville, so.
It's all right. You do what you need to do. Stay safe out there.
It's all good.
Taking a detour. We're just chit-chatting about.
So I will say, we were, I think, in 2nd on day 2.
Yeah, I was getting a little nervous. I was listening to you all the way home with the wind. I didn't want that, Gramps. I don't listen to him all the way home.
We were 2nd going into day 2, and then day 2 we were all the way down to 11. So that's just how crazy the scoring was. I think
there's a 3-inch spread between the first 8 teams.
Oh yeah,
is that right?
Yeah. 1st and 8.
Yep,
so
yep.
It was almost like forget about day 1. Yep. It's almost like a new day in day 2.
Yep.
So Gramps, if you would have caught that donkey from under the dock, where would that have put your team?
It's hard telling because my biggest failure was day 1 by only putting up a 14-incher. So, you know, it's one of those things, you know, and we learned this last year. If you want to be in it, you've got to have like 18 pluses both day. Yep. You know, you've got to, because, you know, like you saw the one team, they had 2 20s on day 2, and it just made all the difference in the world. You can catch a 16 and make it up with a giant the next day, but if you want to be competitive in this, you've got to basically your whole team has to have at least 18 inchers among you know, and now with the 2-day, and imagine what it's going to be next year with like 10 people on a team, because actually it's going to be 11. It's going to be 11 if you've got a captain with 10 people. I mean, imagine what the leaderboards are going to look like all day long. It's going to be freaking insane.
My God. Well, real quick, because Gramps, we heard it, but only 80 people have heard this so far. So walk us through what next year is going to look like for the Knucklehead. Chad told us this last night at the awards ceremony.
Yep. So Chad and I have been kind of planning this for a bit, but he's like, I'm taking it. It's going to be going to the next level. So what we're going to do, month period to compete for spots, except each team is carrying the top 2 places. So you'll have 2 from May, June, July, and August, but then that leaves 2 more spots, and those are wild card spots. And what that means is the captain has the discretion to pick any 2 people that fished any of his or her events throughout the season. So if you've got somebody who you know is an absolute hammer who didn't win the, you know, 1st or 2nd, but you know that there's still somebody that you want on there, then you can choose them. You know, I know some of the captains might do like a randomizer or, you know, stuff like that. But yeah, it's gonna be wild. It's gonna be a whole new level of craziness. And then yeah.
So there's gonna be, how many teams are we allowing?
He's going to keep rooting more influence. You know, he's going to keep recruiting some more influencers. So, I mean, dude, you think about it, this could be like a 200-person tournament when it's all said and done, depending on how many captains there are. Because if you actually end up with 10 teams next year with, you know, the captain and 10 more people, it's going to be absolutely insane.
Yeah, I was talking to Mainstream. He's like, hey, man, I'd like to have a team next year. I was like, heck yeah, you would. You're committed to this bad boy, putting it down. So that'll be fun. I'm excited about that.
I wonder if I just took the wrong exit. Hold on, I gotta check. Dang it.
I hope not. We'll give you a second.
I think we've just passed Cincinnati, so we're out of the traffic and hopefully on a straight and narrow path home.
We didn't plan that too well. We landed right in Cincinnati at 5:00 p.m. Not too good. Gramps is checking his maps right now. So what are the 2 lessons that you learned this week that made you a better angler, Jake?
Oh man, try something different. If something's not working, just move on. I think I spent too much time. I was getting frustrated and spent too much time on one particular spot. But like what you said, you're looking for the aggressive bass, not the bass that'll bite if you hit him in the head with a lure. You know.
I don't have scope, so for me, it's like, all right, I can't see you, so I'm just gonna keep moving.
Exactly. So I mean, I know there was fish there because they kept jumping, and when I say jumping, they were coming out of the water next to me, slapping their tail 20 feet from me. You know, they were there. They weren't hitting what I was throwing. I was trying to like you see them on the live scope. You throw everything you can at them, or a bedfish or something like that. But I guess it's for me. I took way too much time in one spot. I should have just kept moving on. That's the big thing that I think I learned.
You got stuck.
And then I just went to Old Faithful, whatever produces for me, which was the chatterbait, and I just started ripping it through the grass. I got a big old bruise on the side of my rib cage right here from the rod butt, ripping through all that grass all the time. And
so everything about Gunnersville actually screams break out your chatterbait.
Everything.
Right? Everything. So if you guys, I know you weren't there, but Lake Gunnersville's right now just full of eelgrass and full of hydrilla. There's not a piece of wood that is not touched by mats, eelgrass, or hydrilla, everywhere you go. And a lot of places we're fishing, a lot of the coves, it's fairly shallow, so we're getting stuck all the freaking time. One of my team members burned his motor out. The other one burned a wire. I mean, because you're constantly caught up in this eelgrass and constantly have to get it all figured out, and just overpowers those motors. Gets them hot. So we actually, on the last day, Jack, day 2, he gets to the boat ramp, gets ready to push in, and he can't get his boat started. So he thinks it's his battery. He's like, all right, not a problem. I'm just gonna run back to our Airbnb, which was like 15 minutes away, and get a new battery. So I'm like, crap. Like the frog bite has been hot in the morning, lines in 6:00 a.m. and just start throwing, and they'll start hitting for the next hour. Like, it's wild. A lot of these big bass are pushing up real shallow, like in a foot of water, getting these bait fish, and they were hitting frogs. It was absolutely insane. And that's
in open water.
Yeah, it's crazy. And so that's Jack's like specialty. He's like, frogfish. That's the first thing I throw. The Tekla frog, just like you, Gramps.
Yep.
That flappy tail, that nice bubble. You know, slow it down, that nice plop. They can dial in on that and freaking inhale it. But it ended up he went and got the battery, came And he's like, it's not the battery. I was like, oh crap, we're in big trouble because he's got a big kayak. It was a little bit windy that morning. He's not going to be able to get anywhere. So I'm thinking, Darren, you got to catch a 20 and I got to go give him my kayak. That's the whole crazy thing about this team tournament. If you fish tournaments where it's just you and you're building a bag, that's one strategy. But here I'm thinking, okay, I got to catch these 18 plus, and then I got to go give him my kayak so he can motor out. Seth, we had 2 scopes on our team. Seth was the one that really has that dialed in. And so Seth caught his biggest one. And then he was like, okay, Seth, can you come over and scope for Jack? And so it was just wild. He'd find some, he'd call the whole team over. I just posted a short a little bit ago where all 5 of us were fishing in one spot.
Yeah, some of my teammates, they're all like, you would not believe these guys. They're all gathered around this dude with the scope throwing jerk baits. And I'm like, of course they are.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are. Jerk bait was making it happen. I love the team aspect of that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Some teams can, hey, we're all going to go to 5 different places and just fish your own strategy, fish what you're confident with. And if that's you, then great. Other teams are like, hey, we're going to stick around because the fish were actually schooling as well. If you were lucky enough to come across a school of fish, they move fast. So you might have anywhere from 30 seconds to 10 minutes before they are gone. But if you found that magic school and they were actually some big fish, this is how Tammy caught her, I think she got 2nd or 3rd biggest fish in the tournament.
Yeah.
She caught a 19. She's like, I couldn't get them off the jerkbait fast enough to cast it again and take the picture because there were just big fish and they were hitting. She got a 19 or 18 followed by her 21 and a quarter or something like that.
That was crazy, yeah.
And so every once in a while I'd be like, man, I'm just not hitting them. So I take my motor around and I would be scanning. I'd be fishing the jerkbait, but looking on the water around me just so I could see a blow up within the distance. So I wasn't even paying attention to my jerkbait. I was just working it, looking for a blow up somewhere. And it worked out for me. But it was really like I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing so I can find the next opportunity. It was something wild.
And the funny thing is with the live scope, that technology, it's changed the way that we can fish now because it doesn't leave you dependent on getting lucky over grass or in mats. If you find a school and you can chase it, you see that being played at the Bassmaster and MLF level, where that's what these guys are doing is they're chasing schools of fish, so they're not fishing a spot. They're actually fishing the fish. Right. And so it's a crazy new way, and Michael was like that yesterday. He's good with the scope. And, he's one of these dudes that's an up-and-comer. A lot of people may not have heard of Michael Ridenauer in the kayak bass, but he's sitting 11th in the Bassmaster series right now. And he's one of those dudes. He literally started a company so he could fish more because this is his passion. And so they've had good success, and he's had more days on the water this year than ever before. And he's sitting 11th in the Bassmaster Angler of the Year points. I can't imagine where he's going to be in a couple years when he gets even more experience. But you talk about a great dude, man. He's schooled us on a lot of things that he's learned just by putting so much time on the water. And I know you know this too because you do most of your fishing in the morning. But that time on the water, it just makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, heck yeah. It's interesting. I was fishing next to him for a little bit. I needed to get my first fish on day 2. And I missed like 3 or 4 frog bites. A lot of them hit, they just didn't swallow it. So either they small or just missed it because I was moving it too fast. One I laid into, and it was like I hooked into a stump. And then it jumped and spit me. I was like, how in the world did I not pierce you? Double snake bite piercing on that. I mean, I gave you the trauma on that bad boy. Still. Anyways, that's how it goes.
Yeah,
it was wild. I was fishing next to him with the scope, and he was like, oh, you got 3 or 4 chasers. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is literally blowing my mind. He's like, move it a little faster. Like they're coming. And like, did you get a bite? I was like, no. It's like they were right on it. I'm surprised you didn't feel that hit. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And all the meanwhile, I'm just sitting there, and it was like one of my other 1,000 casts that I didn't get anything on. And he was interested. He's like, jerkbait, especially with the live scope, he's like, this is the #1 lure for the live scope. You can see it coming through the water. And typically you give it, you can jerk, pause when it's far out. But as you get it closer to your boat, it's like what I found is you got to speed it up, because if you do have a chaser and it's just going the same speed, you don't speed it up, you don't get that reaction bite. I probably saw, Gramps, I probably saw 6 or 7 bass at my kayak turn away at the last second.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't speeding it up at the end. They just followed it all the way until they saw me and they spun off. Like, you got to be kidding me. Or some of them actually hit it as I was bringing it out of the water. The ones that scare you? Probably had that happen 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. And it's so funny. And we know there were quality fish there. And especially when Liz was saying one day that she sat there and just watched the school just smash a ball of bait fish. And she said a legit 7-pounder, and she's from Florida, so she knows. Legit 7-pounder completely out of the water chasing those shad. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
That is it's something, right? You see, they hit these bait fish, and bait fish go flying through the air. Bass are flying through the air. I mean, it is absolutely magical, because there's so much bait fish that happening. And it's, I mean, everyone's like, oh, no matter how you feel about scoping, I think it's amazing what you can learn through fish behavior. Like, even if you use it one day and don't use it the next.
And see, that's my,
Yeah, that has forever changed my view of how to jerkbait fish. Because you never would have known you had a chaser. You never would have known you need to speed it up at the end. You never, none of these things that like, oh, you're pulling out big fish with this particular bait. They're not committing, but at least they're there. And so, I mean, I would imagine this takes it to the next level of that fish behavior underwater and how it reacts to different baits. And so that's something.
And see, what I tell people when they talk about live scope, I was like, yeah, sure, we can watch Jacob Wheeler, Dustin Cannell, and those guys chase schools, and ping a little jig head minnow, and do all that. But if you're more interested in learning about bass, what the live scope is great for is finding actual structure. So it's like, once you get good at it, you can say, oh, I think that's a pile of rocks or a brush pile or whatever. But being able to actually see what that is and then mark a waypoint is completely, it's amazing. But there's so much about bass that's being rewritten. The books are being rewritten on things we thought we knew because of that technology. It's really, really kind of cool.
That is neat. Oh, hold up. We got some stop traffic up here.
Yeah, that's what we're going through here in Nashville.
We're in the middle of nowhere. I'm surprised it stopped. Anyways, we keep on looking at our phone, like, oh, is it yellow or red? Like, okay, good. It's just yellow. At least it's moving. Looks like just an accident for a hot second. I mean, hope everyone's all right. But
yeah, my map is showing the red, so we're going through slow.
And one thing I did learn too, I was talking to Gene Jensen because he launched from our launch, and we were finding crawfish, massive crawfish, and they were just crawling all over the ramp, and there's crushed ones here and there from people driving over them with their trailers. Wow! And so what they were doing, they're spawning right now, and they're all buried in the mud on the banks up against all.
Now, what color were they?
Bright red.
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 Yeah.
Red.
See, and I knew that, and now that you say that, I literally brought that orange jackhammer, and then I had some boar hogs flapper that I wanted to start throwing just to see if I could get them to trigger on red. And it's just, when I get into chatterbait land, then all I want to throw is I had 3 different chatterbait rods on. I had a mini max on a crankbait rod, and my 2 chatterbait rods, I had a shad colored, jackhammer, and then I had a bluegill colored jackhammer. And so I didn't even think about crawfish, because it's like, I just wanted to throw my juice, and because we had all that beautiful grass, and it's like, I only took out 6 rods, and 3 of them were dedicated to various jackhammers. So that's where my mind was. And so then I had a frog rod, a Senko rod, and it was man, I love Guntersville. It's such an interesting fishery.
I loved it last year. It was my enemy this year. Just couldn't.
But every time we go, and especially at different times of year, because again, if you go back for like the NC in the spring and April, you're talking, it's going to be a whole different ball game yet again with the spawn going on. So imagine how fat those fish are going to be then. It's just going to be insane. But we're going to have to bounce around and figure out where they're at, and then just wear them out.
Yep. And I picked one crawfish up. It came right out of the hole. It's all up in them where all the eelgrass is like resting on the shore, and it's decaying, and it smells like garbage. And they burrow in that stuff into the mud, and that's where they spawn. And one came out right in front of me when I was loading up my kayak, and I picked it up, and it had eggs all. I got a picture of it too. It had eggs all in its tail, and it made its way to the water, and then it took off. But what blew my mind was I was out in the water. I was like probably 30, 40 feet off of the bank, but the mats were still there with all the eelgrass that was floating on the surface and matted up against the shore. And I heard a blow up, so I went over there. Obviously didn't catch the fish, but I looked over, and the bass was trying to hit a crawdad, which was on top of the mat, 30 or 40 feet off the shore.
Oh wow!
At the end at the end of the mat. So it was crawling on top of the mats. And I'm like, man, I wish I had a red frog right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, make sure you post a picture of that somewhere, because I would like to tie a jig just to see how that plays next year. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Probably a little finesse jig. Just kind of pull it off the top of the mat and let it fall down right after the edge of the mat. I bet you.
Oh,
below.
Slurp.
Looks like. I got a picture of one as well. How red they are. So I'll send that. Ooh, we got an accident over here.
Yeah.
Police officer just tried to cut us off.
I swear, this truck next to me, his mirror was like 4 inches from the side of the truck that's in front of me.
Oh,
it's like, you boys are nuts.
So, Gramps, are we doing the same? I know that last year was in November. This year is right now. Are we gonna move the date again, or is it, or?
Plan on Columbus Day weekend, just to give everybody that holiday Monday to play in there. So I don't know if it's I don't know if, I think it might be the weekend of Columbus Day, so that everybody can travel home Monday, or if it's going to start. But what he's going to do is he's going to combine the KBF Challenge Series Championship, which is, so a lot of the people that we just fished with are staying there because those championships are on next weekend.
Right.
So normally I fish those, but I decided to skip this year's because I'm going to go hit the next Bassmaster event at Caddo. I leave for that next Tuesday. So it's like, I didn't want to stay back to back and then go do Bassmaster. I had to kind of pick. So I chose Knucklehead, and then I chose to go do the Bassmaster event.
Yeah, I would have liked to. Obviously, I was fishing the Challenge Series, had a perfect score for AOI points. And I was like, oh yeah, and I was talking to my wife about it. She's like, is it that important? Well, it's not that difficult to qualify to fish the national championship.
Yep.
So I was like, I can do it again next year. I believe all you have to do is place in 1, 2, or 3, right? In one of the Challenge Series months. Is that how that works?
Pretty much, but what a lot of us do, because I don't do a lot of the Challenge Series, because to be honest, the guys in my state, the ones who live down in the honey hole of the state, they pretty much win it every month. But there's a special qualifier in May called KBF Mayhem, and the top 50% of those qualify for the national championship and the Challenge Series championship. So this year, I needed you needed in Indiana, based on the number of people participating, you had to finish in the top 10. And guess who was number 10?
Hey-o.
Yep.
Love
So
it.
I always squeak my way in to qualify for that. But yeah, next year with them both being combined, so you have the team event going on while during the championship, then those who you don't have to pick one or the other, because we want to make it as fun for everybody as you can. And then
So,
the national championship is always in the spring, and that's like the big daddy. So that's where a lot of that fun comes from too.
So me and I think, was it you I was talking with? We were discussing like how it's gonna work for that when they're combined. So you're fishing with your team. Obviously, you want to share the juice. You want to get them on your team on the fish, but you're also competing against them. Has that been?
Yeah, I mean, you could be, but a lot of the knucklehead guys. I mean, but that's part of the I can't use the word that Chad uses, the tomfoolery of the whole thing, because you saw both ID codes on the boards this weekend, right? You remember the codes that we had on the board that we can't say on the so you saw the commonality in the two codes, right?
yeah.
So where that comes from is every time I call Chad or Chad calls me or we text, it's sup that. And we just spell it with the 1K and the 1R, but that's our greeting every time we talk to each other. So he thought he was being funny. So that was like a throw to me for those two codes. And if you go and look at any of my fish that I posted, at the top of my board, I put sup and then that on the other side as my hidden message back to him. But and I'm getting ready to go under this bridge in slow traffic, so hopefully I don't lose you. But try to push through this.
No,
all right, I should be good now.
It's interesting on the codes because there was a 2-day event, right? And so there's two qualifiers. And Chad was mentioning yesterday that probably 4 or 5 people on day 2 forgot to update their qualifiers and all their fish were DQ'd. So gotta pay attention to that stuff.
Including one of his teammates. So that cost them. Yeah.
I was like, bro, you're the tournament director and
he's
captain. Come on now.
Yeah.
Your team what?
So one of our team's members actually, whenever you go to upload your fish, it actually still had to check, like automatically check the option to upload it to day 1. So we had to like call Chad and be like, hey, we uploaded the duplicate fish on the day 1, but it's a day 2 fish. So he had to go in there and delete that entry. And so it kind of messed up the day 1 leaderboards for about an hour and a half or 2 hours in the beginning, because I actually showed my team at number 1. But
yeah.
Because it was a 2-inch upgrade. So that was we saw that was a little error.
So Gramps, we haven't actually even shared with everybody who won this thing.
Oh yeah.
Well, waiting for the end.
Well, exactly.
So I don't.
I mean,
before we get there, Columbus Day in 2025 is October 13th. For those kind of just mentally putting a placeholder until it's officially kind of put out there. So
okay.
Monday, October 13th, 2025.
Mid-October now instead of beginning, and hopefully, maybe the fishing guys will bless us with a little bit better weather.
Yeah, right. All right, so I'm
because the weather all week was gorgeous. I mean, that was crazy.
It was gorgeous, but I wish it was just a little bit more cooler.
Yeah.
That way, fish kind of are a little bit more active, because that second day of fishing was rough.
That was brutal. Oh my goodness.
They were stingy. All right.
Yeah.
I got the standings up. So I'm going to walk through day 1, day 2, then the overall, so everyone kind of get an idea of kind of all this played up. All right. At the end of day 1, Freedom Squad.
Yeah.
91 inches. Yeah. They had a 27.5, 19, 18.75, 17, and a 15.5.
Now let me talk about that for just a second, because for those who don't know, Jeremy, my brother, was actually leading. He was the captain for that team, and due to some medical stuff, had to bow out at the last second. What compounded that was Alex on the water, who was on my team last year. He ended up not being able to go, and so the two guys that actually won the months preceding him were friends of his. So they were like, "Well, we're not going to go because Alex not going." So it left the team decimated. So Matt, who OEF5, who is the third founding member, me, my brother, and Matt, the third founding member of Freedom Squad, he normally cooks at these events, but he's like, I called him. I was like, bro, Jeremy can't go. Somebody needs to lead the Freedom Squad team, and you're the third OG of Freedom Squad. And I said, you got to be the captain. So what we did from there was went through, and that left Matt and then Jermaine, Mainstream Fishing, who qualified to fish. That left 3 empty spots. So we went through and found 3 people that fished in that Freedom Squad event who said that they could make it, and then they actually drove. They last minute, changed all their plans and came down here, and a couple of them paddle. A couple of them are just, they're very, just simple anglers. And man, and for a last second throw together team, of just regular Freedom Squad members, they go out on day one and just smoke them.
Yeah, they were where we were both days.
Yeah,
I was rolling by them throughout the day and saw them in the morning. That was awesome. Team day one, second place, just a quarter inch behind them, Team Eric Jackson. Then right behind them, half inch, Team Bearded Dad, which Jake was on. How was that morning?
Struggle bus for me.
You were the one that didn't put him up.
I put a 18.25,
no,
but
that's not a struggle bus.
Well, for me it was, because that was my only fish that day.
Oh, you almost got skunked.
I got skunked the day before, and because I struggle to throw a frog. I never throw frogs in Ohio, just because the time frame where you could throw a frog in Ohio for what I felt like. Exactly, and I don't get out a lot as much as I want to, so I just don't have any experience on a frog, and that's what was biting that those couple days.
Where you get skunked?
Point of Pines.
Okay. Yeah, we went out to Port of Pines that morning as well. I didn't think there was gators.
No. All Reds.
Oh, yeah.
All Reds. That's where we went. Yeah.
I didn't know there was gators there. I just had my leg over the side, and I'm still thinking Ohio. And he sends me this photo of this alligator. I'm like, holy crap! There are gators in here.
Massive. It's probably
like
15.
There
15,
are
20
there are moccasins. There are moccasins in there too.
I think I saw one in Ripper.
Yep.
Yeah. Was it red with like some bands on it?
Because I think it was a monster that was huge.
It was gray. They're gray.
We went to the same spot. He's like, because I had borrowed his truck the whole time, and so he saw his truck. He's like, bro, get out of my spot. We show up to what was it called again?
No, it's All Red.
All Red.
Yep.
And I go out there, and I'm with Seth, and he's scoping. And he's like, man, I'm not seeing anything. We're out there for about an hour and a half. He catches one fish. And I was like, hey, how many fish are you seeing today versus where you saw yesterday at Siebel? And he was like, probably 90% less. I was like, why are we still here?
Yeah.
He's like, you're right, let's go. And so we both headed back to the boat dock, then went to Siebel. I left you and never told you.
Yeah.
And he got skunked then.
The funny thing is, I knew all along where you were, because Darren was driving my truck, because I bunked up with Jay from Bearded Dad Fishing and his Airbnb. We drove down together, obviously. We drove back together. So I took my kayak off my trailer, put it on Jay's trailer, took all my stuff out and stayed with him. And I gave Darren the keys to my truck, and he kept my trailer and the truck all weekend. The funny thing is, I have
tracking him on GPS.
Shows me where my truck is the entire time.
I knew you did. I knew you
did. But I wasn't going to be that guy and go crowd him, you know, because I knew what he was catching him on, and just because I know what he likes to fish and stuff. And
swim jig.
I just wasn't that guy. So I was like, I know what he uses. I know what he's probably throwing. Come to find out, it was the jerk bait, which blew my mind, which was not what I was thinking. And I know where he's at, and he's told me, hey, I caught 40 fish, you know, and it was tempting, but I wasn't that guy. Where I kept my mouth shut. I didn't say anything, but I knew where he was.
Look at you.
I knew where he was.
Then fourth place, day one, Team Wendell, 88.75. I think I'm the one that sucked it up that day. Let me see here.
It seemed like all the captains had the worst day on one of the days.
Oh yeah, it was me with no, I don't know where it was, but I didn't do good on the day one. It was, I think I was in the 15, 16. I had one break me off. It hit the jerkbait right at the boat and took it straight under. It all happens in a quarter second, right? Snapped my line. So that was day one. So you kind of get an understanding where everyone's at. But as Chad said that night, because we had this awesome event at Back 40 Barbecue. Is that what it was called? No, Back 40 Brewery.
Yes.
That was a
Back 40.
Back 40 Brewery. Yep.
Yeah, that was a rad place. So I'm excited we're gonna do that.
Yeah,
again.
and I was gonna ask. So is it Matt that led
We
the
actually
Freedom Squad this
we
year?
actually went back there for dinner. Yeah, Matt led the Freedom Squad this year. Yep.
Yeah. So is that why there was no barbecue this year at the award ceremony?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, because he was going to bring his smoker.
Yeah.
Yep. That had to be a last minute change. He had to bring the kayak instead of the smoker.
Yep.
All right, team day two. Greenfish won. He wasn't even in the top 5. But here's the thing: there's only a 3-inch spread for the top 8 teams in day one. So you can come out of nowhere on day 2. Greenfish 1 had 93.75 inches. So they had a 20.75, 20.25, 18.5, 17.5, and 16.75. So that was the most for day 2. Second for team day 2 was Fluke Master was 90.75, followed by Eric Jackson 90.25, Team Creek at 89.5, and Wendell at 88.25. So when it's all said and done, when you add both those scores together, we'll go from 5th place to 6th place all the way up to 1. Gramps came in at 6th, 170.5.
Top half. Let's go.
Come on now. Yeah. That's right. Team Creek.
Yeah, 12 teams, top half.
Team Creek, 173.25, 5th place. Wendell came in 4th, 177. Fluke Master, 177.75. Greenfish 1, 180.75. And the winner of the Knucklehead 2024, Team Eric Jackson, 181 inches.
And that is so cool.
A 1/4 inch. Separated first and
So do you have time? Do you have time for a quick Eric Jackson story?
Yeah, hit us. We got hours.
So I got you. Yeah, we can make this a bomb live stream. So Eric Jackson is a very unique individual, and the dude is almost 70. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So
wow, he looks great.
See, and I know you guys, you might not even know this because you got to be deep into kayaking to know Eric Jackson, right? So he is a long time whitewater competitor, right? And I mean like Olympian whitewater competitor. He actually started and founded Jackson Kayaks years ago, and then built out to what it is, and then moved on from that. And now he has a company called Apex, and he makes, it's expensive. It's like a $10,000 kayak, but it's a carbon fiber kayak.
Right.
And he paddles everywhere he goes in competition. Now, he does have a Torpedo for scouting, because sometimes you got to cover a lot of water and just go look around at things. which I ran into him at the boat ramp on Wednesday, and that's what he was doing. And so we sat there and chatted for probably half an hour, and then he took off. But in every competition, he's a very very limited anything, and just paddles and goes. And you will instantly recognize him in any big gathering by his big red, I guess we could call it a onesie jumpsuit, and his and his so it's red, and he's got his leather hat on. But he is one. I mean, he's a legend in kayaking and kayak fishing, because he still competes at every high level KBF event, and he's always in the top 20, most of the time in the top 10. And it doesn't matter what the conditions are, he's paddling his kayak, and that's the way he fishes. And he is just an absolutely wonderful person, human being, and a great dude. And you talk about a great ambassador of the sport. So I didn't even realize that his team was at second yesterday. So when they won that, after both days, you look, they both had over 90. His team had over 90 both days, and that especially on days where most of the teams did good on one day and then struggled on the other. And they put up solid scores both days. So I mean, kudos to Eric for just being an absolutely wonderful person, but I mean, great ambassador, and it's somebody that you love seeing win something like the Hero Cup. It was really awesome.
That's awesome. Oh yeah. So that was the standings, man. Anything? Any key takeaways for you, Gramps? We're always
throw frogs.
Say that again.
Throw frogs. Make sure you have a frog rod and a chatterbait rod.
Yes. Nope.
Yeah. When you go to, I'm in the mountains, so I don't know if you can hear me or not.
It's us too.
Okay. Yeah, but key takeaways when you go to Gunnersville: bring a frog rod, bring a chatterbait rod, bring a Senko rod, and for Darren, jerk baits.
And a jerkbait rod, yeah.
I own a jerkbait specific rod. It's a 6'8", right? It's literally Zell Rollins jerkbait rod, right? This guy, the jerkbait, that's what he's known for, the master. So I own it. I just didn't bring it. I never thought in a million years I would use it.
You wouldn't think on it. You wouldn't think on a river full of grass that you're going to throw a jerkbait. Just.
Coming down thinking, of course I'm gonna skip docks. I'm gonna back up that. I'm gonna just fish a jig. Nope. Okay, if I get it caught in the grass, I'm gonna fish a swim jig. Nope. Chatterbait, the bite was okay, but that freaking jerkbait. And so for me, I mean, when I look back on it, I came unprepared. Like I gotta come not knowing what I don't know about it.
Yeah, but that's one of those things where you don't.
I had to go buy a line.
It's one of those things where you don't know what you don't know until you know, and now it's like, okay, now we got something else in our arsenal.
Now we know, and it was also interesting. In the moment, I was like, okay, well, Jack was going to go back and get his second battery. And I just thought to myself, that there's a lesson learned that I didn't personally have to learn outside of he was on my team. But if you have a second battery,
bring it with you.
You should bring it in your truck.
Yes.
Right? And so you should bring like everything that you can have. Granted, you only have limited space, but my goodness, I mean, I was sharing this. We had so many rods. I think we had 20 rods stacked in his Yakima box. I mean, it's chock full. I don't know if you can get another one in there. But just coming more prepared, at least it's better to have it and not use it than need it to win and not have it. Or you're running to Walmart, not getting another hour of sleep, right? And so I have that. I feel like I really dialed in. When you use something for one lure for 4 days straight, you learn it real fast. And I feel like I dialed in my good rhythm
for utilizing a jerkbait. We really worked with the Berkeley Stennis, which were just the killer. I used my scope stick from Bill Lewis that I got in my last Fish Vault box. That did really well. I'm trying to think what else I used. I think I used a KBD that looked like the Berkeley Stennis. They all kind of all look the same, right? Real short bill. Maybe go 6 feet if I really work it super hard. And that's what worked for me. But I didn't even bring them with me. I looked at them.
Yeah.
I remember they're on my wall. I'm like, am I going to need those? No. Am I going to need an umbrella rig? No, I never fished an umbrella rig. I saw Seth.
Yep.
He's like, he went and bought one at Walmart. His first cast on an umbrella rig, he caught a bass.
No way.
That's first cast.
No way. I had one with me too. I didn't
You think about it, they look schooling fish.
Yeah.
I mean, why not?
I saw a boater throw one into a school of busting shad and caught 2 at one time. It was really cool.
I believe it. I mean, you could catch 3 if you get them schooling, man.
Oh yeah.
So let me ask you, Darren. Let me ask you, Darren. So you never throw the jerkbait? Are you gonna start throwing it on your home lake?
I don't know.
You don't know?
If I end up getting live scope, which I already have the unit.
Well, I know where you fish. I won't say anything.
You're not welcome to my lakes anymore.
Darren fishes. No.
I fish a variety of
but
one.
I can think of a good place that you can throw that jerkbait. I think, and you'd probably catch them when they're feeding up.
But
That's hard.
Yeah.
You think?
But the great thing about the jerkbait is if you have a kayak with just 2D sonar, you can jerkbait fish, because if you roll over them, and especially in the summertime when you see them, if you can see what the thermocline is and then where they're suspended over that and figure out how deep they are, you don't have to have live scope to catch them. You can, if you have down imaging or you have traditional 2D and you can see where they're suspended at, you can pick your jerkbait to dive to the correct depth and still smack them that way. For mega bass, the regular ones go down to 5 to 6 feet. The plus ones go down to 10, like 7, 8 feet, and then the plus 2s go down to like 10 feet. So you can put them down there and still catch them without having a live scope.
Great for winter fishing. The plus 2s,
Yes.
dig them straight down. Yep.
Yeah, because you'd
want to throw them. You'd want to throw them on a little bit of heavier rod though, than like a medium traditional jerkbait rod, if you're going to put them down there to like 7, 8, 9 feet. But yeah, they're great for wintertime.
And a lot of people, until live sonar, a lot of people left jerkbaits till the very, very, very end of the season, or like in when you're trying to sneak out in March or April when the water's still cold, and that's one of those twitch, leave, 5-second pause. It was the bass are lethargic kind of a bait, but since live scope's come along, it's changed the whole way the jerkbait's fished.
Yep.
Got a comment in here, Illumination 79. Funny how a lot of people say peddler and paddlers are dead, but a peddler won last year and a paddler this year.
Yep. Well, and to play off of that,
oh yeah.
Yeah, and to play off of that, Drew Gregory still pretty much paddles most places. Now there are places where he uses there's a lot of places where he will use a torpedo if the current's crazy or whatever. But Drew Gregory and Eric Jackson are still the two most prolific paddlers and use zero electronics. They just go fish. So you can be competitive without all of that.
I don't know. I think it's important to, at least it's beneficial for me to learn how to fish without live scope first. And then, now we live in a day where that wasn't a choice for us, right? It didn't exist. It's like 2018 is when Garmin live scope came out. And who knows what other technology that was similar before that. But nonetheless, we didn't have a choice, right? Everybody now has a choice. Do I start off straight with live scope?
what happens if you try to fish? Everyone knows who falls on that stuff. Some of that stuff's getting banned. They're going to tighten up on that even more over the years. If that's all you've known, you're going to be at a disadvantage if you haven't learned how to fish before using electronics to help you fish.
Well, I mean, and like you said, it's better to learn without it. For example, I went up to Wisconsin a few weeks ago and fished the Kayak Adventure Series, and I left all of my electronics home. No graphs, none of it. I obviously took my motor because I was on a river, and you want to be as, with river, you never know what the flow or current's going to be. But since I'm trying to learn smallie fishing, I left all the grass home and went by instinct and what I've learned from watching and listening to other people. And I took sixth in that event. I was one bite away from catching Christine and dropping her back. When I went up and put up, and cashed a check there, no electronics. It was amazing, but that's how I'm going to learn if I want to learn to catch smallmouth bass. So, yeah, you don't have to have all this stuff. It's nice. Whenever somebody comments on my kayak when they see me at the boat ramp, I was like, oh, yeah, I love my floating lazy boy, because that's truly what it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you never know. You get yourself in a situation like this morning. Jack might have had to gone out if he has one issue with electronics, right? Battery didn't charge last night. Wire gets too hot. You can't fix it in the moment. If you don't know how to fix it without it, you're done. And you could sink a team if you heavily relied and only could fish that way. So I don't know. It's just fascinating. Fascinating to think of it that way. Any other lessons or any lessons that you heard of other people having?
Well, I will say this, when you were talking about the batteries, one of the old sayings that we had in the Army back in the day was 2 is 1, 1 is none. Because if you don't have a spare of the most crucial things, you think about it. What happens if you drop your catch board in the water? You better be able to go back to your truck and get another one. You better have a backup catch board. Sure, if you lose your phone, that's you're not going to carry 2 phones with you. But things that are common sense that that you need back. I always carry a spare bait casting reel in case whatever inevitably happens to any of us, you cast into the wrong wind direction and, so I
had a backup.
Yep. So, yeah, it's like, okay, this is a mess. We'll have to deal with this later. So I carry 1 or 2. I always carry like a 7-gear ratio with 15-pound line on it. That way, whatever I was doing that I'm trying to replace that reel with, that combo will at least get me close enough.
Yeah.
100%.
Unless you're punching into the thick stuff at Gunnersville, then probably not.
Yeah.
I did that too because I came unprepared with the rod to have another jerkbait style rod. So a lot of my rods were way too heavy and way too long, and I would have broken my wrist if I did that for more than 15 minutes. And so I was like,
the good backup for that is just pick up your spinning rod and tie it on there, because that's where jerkbaits started.
I did that, but I had an 8-pound line on it. I didn't want to have to take the 8-pound line off because Seaguar and Visa is expensive.
Yeah.
It is. And all these freaking gas stations that are bait shops all around Gunnersville, double the price on anything that you want.
Oh yes. Don't ever shop. I mean, everybody wants to go into waterfront and make a YouTube video, but do your shopping before you get to the lake. That is for sure.
I spent about, I'm not going to say because my wife might watch this, but I spent a lot on frogs.
Yeah.
I had like 3 frogs in my arsenal, and after the first day of practice, I took a trip. It was bad.
Yep. I will be restocking my supply of tackle over the winter time for sure.
Yeah. There you go. Shout out AmericanLegacyFishing.com.
Yes, 100%.
Let me tell you a story about them. Actually, they did me right. I think I wrote you about it. So when they sent me 2 rods right before Gunnersville, and they put the correct shipping label on there with their USPS partner, and they paid the necessary amount to ship it. It was free shipping to me because it was over a certain amount. He got to me, and it was out for delivery. And then all of a sudden, right before it got delivered to me, it said it was rerouted back to the sender. So I called American Legacy. They said, no, it's not us. We didn't reroute it. I called my local USPS store the next day. They said, yeah, it's still here. The problem is that the sender didn't pay enough shipping. So I called them back. American Legacy. I forget who I talked to there. He had then contacted his shipping person, his representative from USPS. They figured it out. They called my local post office, and they figured out the amount that was owed, which I still think is not correct, was like $7. So what happened was the delivery driver who went to go deliver it to me couldn't fit it in his truck, so they remeasured it, and whoever the dingus was that remeasured it measured the circumference of it like a 5-gallon bucket. And it shot the price up. And it shot the price up to like, it was like $180 or something. And I'm like,
crazy.
There's no way that a rod could, they could charge that much money for a rod to be shipped, because, I mean, they wouldn't make any profit, right?
They
got it all figured out.
Nobody would order online.
Exactly. Exactly. So it was 100% USPS mess up. I go and I pay the $7, and I tell them, hey, I just wanted the rods. I didn't want them to be sent back all the way back to you guys. You guys fix the label and then send it back. It's just going to take too long. So I paid it. And the amazing guys over there, they hooked it up. They gave me, I think, a $20 store credit for the store. And they worked with me. They called me back personally. Those guys over there, I mean, shout out to those guys. Those guys are great.
And I tell everybody too, and a lot of people don't realize this, when you shop online, there's some brands, they just price fix, and it has to stay what that is. And if you order online, that's kind of what you're stuck with, because those records are auditable. And I just crossed into Kentucky. But the cool thing is, and I tell everybody this, especially anybody who is gearing up for the season, if you get them on the phone, you will get the best deal that you will get anywhere. Nobody will beat them. They will work with you. And the more you're buying, if you're like, I'm traded it in, deal on fishing gear that you will find. I mean, and there's no getting around that. They have a great trade-in program if you're trying to move out some of your old stuff. And a lot of people actually buy the trade-ins because they may have only been used for a year, or maybe one YouTube video review from, guys on YouTube who review stuff, and goes back to the store that still has the tags and stuff on it. You know what I'm saying? So if you're looking for really good stuff, check out the used inventory. But if you want to trade off some of your, used gear that somebody would pay for, it can't be like a Abu Garcia Black Max. But, if you got like a loose Hyper Mag or a Shimano Corrado, and you want to move up to like a Bantam or Metanium, that store, they will work with you, give you good value for it, and then apply that credit towards your next purchase. So, I mean, they do things different than anywhere else,
I think I signed up for their text program too, and they always send me. I think that's why I got those rods, those 2 Dobbin rods, because it was like 20, 25, or 30% off Dobbins for like a couple days or a couple hours or something, and I got myself a couple swim bait rods. So that's I think
they actually sell more Dobbins rods than Dobbins does. So
they're the best price.
How large is this company?
I mean, it's their storefront is pretty good. I mean, it's there. I've done some videos walking through like the back where they have all their stuff. But it's kind of like a mom and pop shop that's, based in Evansville, Indiana. But I mean, they actually got their nickname from G. Loomis as the G. Loomis Superstore, because they move that many, and they've got everything from budget to bougie. So if you're, like Luz or Abu Garcia, some of the higher end stuff that you can't, that's not, it's higher than like when you show up in a Walmart or Dick's. but all the way up to the G Loomis, the Daiwa high end stuff, Mega Bass. But they've got a mix of everything, Phoenix and Arc and whatever you're looking for, they pretty much have it. But they probably move more Shimano rods and G Loomis rods than they're probably up there competing with TW. But TW is a whole different level of craziness.
Bearded Dad just joined the text. He's also probably driving right now.
Yeah, I would say. Well, he left at 4 this morning, I think. So he's
probably getting close to home.
Yeah, he's probably either home or very close.
Yeah, you get
What's
close
up,
to
Jay?
home, brother? Oh, this is crazy. So a couple questions, a couple stories I want you to tell. One, what happened to Liz's trailer, one of your team members? 2, you got 2 trailer stories. Are you all right with your back?
Oh, yeah. So, who is spilling the juice? Who's asking these questions?
I'm asking the question.
Oh, okay. I thought this had to be a comment.
Yeah, there was some. No.
Okay.
Nothing. I'm just curious because we just had a trailer issue. You guys weren't logged in earlier. We blew a tire during the first live, and a giant. I gotta show them this. Some people are going in and out. Check out that cut and that tire. So going 80 miles down the road, our kayaks are bouncing through the air. And so we don't have any trailer issues. Gramps, what's your trailer issues?
So Liz on day 1, at the end of day 1, we had a little time before the meet and greet, and so she hasn't, how a lot of us do. You get on the water in the morning, you don't eat breakfast, you don't eat, you're fishing. You don't care.
Drink water.
So yeah, all the things that we make videos telling people to do, we completely throw out the window and ignore, right? So Liz had got off the water and had run to Chick-fil-A to grab a sandwich, and on her way back to the B&B, noticed that her trailer tire was wobbly. So it ended up being a bearing issue, but at the time she's basically broke down at Chick-fil-A. So I get off the water, I go straight to Chick-fil-A, and of course I charge her a spicy chicken deluxe for coming and get her right now. But we get over there, we take her new Canoe Unlimited off of her little trailer, strap it up to the Fish Texas kayak trailer, and empty all her stuff into my truck, and then I follow her home just, with flashers and all of this, because, you really don't want to leave a trailer somewhere because it might get jacked. But so it was wobbly, but it was enough where she can drive it, 40 miles an hour back the 5 miles back to our place. So it turns out, long story short, her bearings were bad, and she had gone to Harbor Freight because that's where she got the hub, and, they ended up sending her to an AutoZone. And there was 2 different size bearings, and she wasn't sure which ones to get, so she got both. Well, turns out Michael Ridenauer, who was our West Virginia hammer, his wife works for a trailer company, and on the top of that, he's one of these guys who's a big DIY. He built his kayak trailer, and it's like steel, right? So he knows. So he literally went and fixed. But the funny thing was, the fact that she bought both types of bearings. He said when whoever it was that built their hub had one size of the bearings on the inside and the bigger size on the outside. What? And so that was crazy. So by the time we got back from going to dinner after day 1, he had already gone over to her place, fixed her trailer because he travels with tools, fixed her trailer, had her kayak sitting on it in the driveway, and she was good to go for the drive home today. And of course, for those who don't know, she lives in Tampa, and they just got devastated. And she's literally driving into that to have another storm in the path. So everybody keep Liz in your prayers.
Cat 5.
Yeah.
Cat
so
5
I mean.
now. Yeah.
It's back to back, and she got through the first one okay and was able to get out here and come up without any damage. But of course, everybody's trying to leave Florida, and she's driving back down in there. So hopefully she was good to go last I chatted with her between our two lives. But yeah, so keep her in prayers.
Really quick.
And then the second story with the me breaking my back is on day one. It's always a scramble when everybody like stops by the B&B and then tries to get the check-in, because at the bigger events, if you're not at check-in at the designated time, you are disqualified, bar none, period. So everybody at my place, you know, they all dumped trailers and left, but they didn't park everybody to the one side. Now the B&B I always get, it's got like a 75-yard driveway. It's long, and it's like like a lane and a half. But if everybody parks to one side, anybody coming in later can at least get through. But with all your teams there, you can double stack, you know, and we stage it by who's going to go out first, who's leaving at 3, who's leaving at 4, and who's leaving at the very last minute to get there. It lines in like I do. So I'm parked in the back. Well, they had just dumped stuff and left, so I had no way of dropping my trailer off and then getting through all of the cars. So the only way I could do this was to try to move Emily's double Fish Texas kayak trailer. So she's got a big one that carries her Hobie on the bottom, and then she's got the double rack on top. But it's also made to put her truck top camper up there, but it's a big trailer. So I go to move this thing forward so I can squeeze around Cairo's truck. And yeah, it was on a hill, and there was the neighbor's yard, and I had to do everything I could to stop this trailer once the momentum got going. I guess I probably would have been smarter to, you know, to try to back out of the driveway backwards and do the slalom that way instead of move her trailer. But yeah, I put the whopping on my back trying to make sure that trailer didn't end up not only in somebody's yard, but rolling down the hill and into their back patio. So yeah, I guess I will give myself a little credit for spending the last year getting in a little bit better shape than I have been, because that was a little more physical strain than this 56-year-old is used to.
All for that moment. Hey, Darren, why don't you tell the people, the good people watching your show, what you did to my trailer?
Yeah, I'll pray about that and get back to you. So, actually lives in Tampa as well. One of the members on our team, we were talking about him earlier. He left last night because he had to go home, board up his house, get his family, and get out, because I think they're saying at the beginning of the week, like, hey, I think we're getting a category 2. And then yesterday, it's like, it just got upgraded to a cat 3. And now everyone's talking cat 4, cat 5. Now that's like up to 156 miles an hour. That is some serious business coming through Tampa. And he's like, you see that white line right there that's in the center of the storm in the path? That's my house right there. And then he got hit, right?
Yep.
He said he had a business on an island there, and they had 4 feet of sand, and like it's going to take 45 days before you can get back on the island. And here's round 2, so be praying for those. Obviously, they're getting ready to get hit hard. And he sent me a photo this morning, a video of him driving into Florida while it was like wall-to-wall traffic leaving Florida. It was wild to see. So everyone's getting out of Dodge. That is a massive
because Jake, I think you had somebody from Tampa on your team too, didn't you?
Yep.
Yeah, so because he said he lives about 20 miles from Liz. So I mean, that whole we all 3 had teammates that are right there close to each other.
Yep, John.
Oh my gosh.
Shout out to John. We love you. Be safe, brother.
Well, Gramps, an hour and 30 minutes. Look at that live.
Took us right off. Shaved it right off.
Yes, sir.
Our time.
I had a good time. Not as good time as I had last year, but still a good time. It's
We still didn't get our stogie together, so we got to be better prepared next year.
I know. What are we doing? I mean, you have all good intentions. You get down there, but then you get in with your team, and as a team captain, you feel responsible for that team experience. And so you're either prepping where you're eating together or you're going to bed early because everyone's up at 4 a.m., right?
Yep.
Getting ready to get going. So you do that day after day. It just wears on you. You know, learning new ways to fish. The sun's. I usually fish in the morning before the sun comes up. So when the sun comes out, I melt like a snowman. I feel like I need a full week to heal. I have 15 cuts on my hand. I don't know where it came from. Seth had blisters for fishing the jerkbait for 5 days straight. 8 hours a day. I need a recovery week. That's for dang sure. I don't even want to go fishing this weekend. That's how
I've got 6 days and I'm back on the road going down to Texas and Louisiana, and I don't know what I was thinking when I did that. I was thinking about a 23-inch bass is what. What's your PB down, Darren?
22.75.
That's, of course it is. It has to be a 1/4 inch more than what I caught. So yeah, I've still got one more fishing mission for the year. Actually, that actual fishing mission is I want a 20-inch smallmouth before the end of the year. That's my next goal.
Mark Foster says, I feel that fishing in the sun all day. I usually fish early or late. Yeah, same here. It's just different.
It was windy in the morning on day 2, and then all of a sudden just dead. Nothing. No wind, no ripple. If you're back in the cove, that was rough.
All day to fish. I literally burnt through my 50-amp battery. I mean, it just happened at the end of the day.
I made it back with 2%.
Typically, I will get, maybe I'll use like 40% of the battery. But man, going against the wind and traveling those long distance and meet up with your team who says they're on the fish, they're seeing them, they're catching them. And then you get your motor stuck in the grass. That is an interesting river.
Yeah. I was so happy I had my NK300 with me instead of the XI3, because being able to chop through that grass, and then I've got a bigger battery, so I mean I never worried about running out of battery. But the lesson I did learn is when you're going to fish a high grass lake, raise your motor up on its mount as high as you can so that it's just under the surface, enough to keep you moving, but that lets you chop the top of the grass instead of getting down in it too. So I learned that from Mike as well. So it was a great week for lessons.
Heck yeah. If you're not learning, then, well, you're losing, in my opinion. So, well, brother, I appreciate you. It was fun. We do got to fish together. We'll get that stogie sometime. Thanks for hopping on. For the second time.
Hey, and don't be surprised if I start yelling at you in November when I'm like, hey, I need to come up to Ohio and catch a big smallie. Let's go fish.
Yeah, you do. We don't have them
in
Ohio as much. I have to go to Pennsylvania to grab smallies.
I can get you on some steelhead in the creeks.
Yeah,
I know
I'm all about this. I'm all about the smallie life right now. It's just got me hooked. I'm just insane.
Yep.
Yeah, I usually go over to the Susquehanna area in Pennsylvania to grab them.
I don't blame you. I need revenge over there next year with Bassmaster. That's for sure.
You know what? I think next year might look a little different for me. I was trying to switch it up. I think I might try to do just a couple more tournaments now that I'm kind of getting into that. So we'll see how that plays out. It's hard. I have a good rhythm with the family life. I still got young kids, 6 and 8. My wife's really gracious. Either I go out before work in the summer when I have early mornings, and typically I'll get just about every Saturday morning till about 11:30. And so to have full days, which is strange, and I go 3 trips a year that my Saint Danielle, my wife, allows me to do. So I don't know, I have to rework the schedule. But nonetheless, we'll see what next year looks like. I like to do a few more. I like the challenge series. It's always fun just to go out there and be, fishing against other people. We'll see what happens. It's gonna be good.
We just got to keep growing the sport, growing the community, brother. That's all we can do.
That's all we can do. I'm having a blast doing it. So for all of you out there listening in, thank you enough for hopping on this live, listening to Gramson, Jake, and I chit chat about the Knucklehead. If you want to fish the Knucklehead and you came in late, next year is going to be a little bit different. For a quick recap, it's going to be 4 months like this past year, May, June, July, and August.
However, it's not just the first place that gets on the team. It's going to be first and second place, right?
Yep.
But I think one of the nuances, you can only sign up for one team. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that
Yep.
what Chad said? Yes.
Yep.
So you can't sign up for two, and like the year before that, you can't sign up for as many as you want. You got to pick the one that you want. But however, you have a greater chance. Then
Now that's per month, so you can try for Wendell's team in May, and if you don't make it, you can sign up for Team Gramps in June, but you can't do both of them at the same time like we could this year.
Right.
So you're not it's not like once you pick one you have to stay with it, but yeah.
You can change it up for sure. For sure.
And 2 wild card, huh?
Yeah, the wild card is going to be interesting.
And 2 wild card,
right
yep.
Now, initially, I'm probably going to favor my northern anglers, who I know are hammers, however, are up against southern anglers.
Good idea.
So right now, that is where I'm leaning. But we'll see. That could change. See what happens.
I got to see what I got to do to get Tammy to come. See what I got to do to get Tammy to come over and fish for Gramps.
Yeah, no.
Don't think that's going to happen.
I'll speak for her. I'll speak for her.
Slit your tires. Tammy,
That ain't never going to happen.
Ain't never going to get it.
Nope.
Drive to New Hampshire. That's like a 2-day drive to get down here.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun when you're taking home a trophy. It's a little less fun when you're in 4th place.
You've got to be a special kind of person to fish the way she hammers them in New Hampshire, of all places.
Yeah.
And then comes down to Gunnersville and hammers them there. You got to be a special kind of person for that.
All day. All day.
Yep.
All right, brother.
It's a lot of driving. Nope. Just thanks everybody for popping in, and as I always say, get outside when you can and make some memories, one cast at a time.
Yeah. All right, brother. You stay safe. Safe driving home. I'll be in touch.
All right, brother.
Everybody.
See you.